The lawyer's office smelled like old leather and expensive coffee. I sat across from Gerald Hutchins, my great-uncle's estate attorney, trying to process what he'd just told me. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" I asked, gripping the armrest of the burgundy chair. Gerald adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses and slid a thick manila folder across his mahogany desk. "Your great-uncle Marcus left you his entire estate, 1,500 acres of land in Riverside County. Prime real estate, I should add." I opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were property deeds, survey maps, and photographs of rolling hills dotted with oak trees. I barely knew Uncle Marcus. We met maybe 3 times at family reunions. "He was a peculiar man," Gerald said, a slight smile crossing his weathered face. "But he was very specific about his wishes. He wanted the land to go to someone young enough to appreciate it and fight for it if necessary." "Fight for it." Gerald leaned forward, his expression turning serious. "There's a complication. About 15 years ago, a development company built a luxury subdivision on the western portion of the property. They claimed they had proper authorization. But according to Marcus's records, they never actually purchased the land. They built an entire HOA community, Riverside Meadows, on property they don't own." My mouth fell open. How is that even possible? Corporate negligence, forged documents, bribes. Marcus suspected all of the above. He spent years gathering evidence, but passed away before he could take legal action. Now that responsibility falls to you. I stared at the aerial photographs showing neat rows of McMansions, manicured lawns, and a clubhouse that looked like it belonged in a country club. How many homes are we talking about? 83 houses. About 250 residents. Gerald pulled out another document. The HOA has been operating under the assumption that they own the land collectively. They've been collecting dues, enforcing rules, even issuing fines. All on your property. The weight of it settled over me like a lead blanket. What am I supposed to do? "That's entirely up to you," Gerald said. "But I'd suggest meeting with them first. See if there's a reasonable solution before lawyers get involved. Well, more lawyers than just me." He smiled wryly. 3 days later, I drove through the gates of Riverside Meadows for the first time. The entrance was marked by an ostentatious stone arch with community name carved in flowing script. Flower beds bursting with impatiens flanked both sides of the road, and every lawn looked like it had been trimmed with nail scissors. The HOA president, Patricia Moreland, had agreed to meet me at the clubhouse. I'd been polite on the phone, not mentioning the real reason for my visit. I wanted to see this place with my own eyes first. Patricia was waiting in the lobby, a woman in her early 60s with helmet-like silver hair and a strand of pearls that probably cost more than my car. Her smile was bright and artificial as a plastic flower. "You must be Marcus's great-nephew," she said, extending a hand with perfectly manicured nails. "We were so sorry to hear about his passing. Such a reclusive man, but he was our neighbor for so many years." "Neighbor," I repeated carefully, shaking her hand. "Yes, his old farmhouse is just on the other side of the ridge. Terrible eyesore, frankly, but we respected his desire for privacy." She gestured around the opulent clubhouse with its vaulted ceilings and crystal chandelier. "Let me give you the tour. Perhaps you'd like to sell his property and move into our wonderful community." I followed her through rooms decorated like a 5-star hotel, a fitness center, a library, a ballroom with a stage. She rattled off rules as we walked. No vehicles parked in driveways overnight. No fence colors except approved shades of white or beige. No lawn ornaments except approved seasonal decorations. Mandatory attendance at quarterly meetings. "We maintain very high standards," Patricia said proudly. "Our property values are the highest in the county. We've worked very hard to build something special here." "About that," I said as we settled into her office, "I need to discuss something important with you." Patricia's smile tightened imperceptibly. "Of course." I pulled out copies of the property deeds Gerald had given me. "I've inherited Uncle Marcus's land, all 1,500 acres of it." "Yes, we're aware. The portion bordering our community." "Not bordering," I interrupted gently. "Including. Your entire subdivision is built on land that my great-uncle owned. Land that I now own. The color drained from Patricia's face. That's ridiculous. We have documentation. The developer showed us. She stopped, her hands fumbling for her own file drawer. I waited while she pulled out a folder and began frantically flipping through papers. I watched her expression change from indignation to confusion to dawning horror. "These deeds," she said slowly. "They're from Riverside Development Corporation. But the parcel numbers." She looked up at me, and for the first time, her facade cracked. "This can't be right." "I'm afraid it is," I said. "The development company built here without actually owning the land. I don't know if it was fraud or incompetence, but the result is the same. Legally, you're all living on my property." Patricia's hand trembled as she set down the papers. "Do you have any idea what you're saying? There are families here, children, people who invested their life savings into these homes. I understand that. I'm not trying to ruin anyone's life. But I can't just ignore that my property was taken." "Taken? We built here in good faith," we were told. Her voice rose, then broke. She took a deep breath, visibly struggling to compose herself. "What do you want?" It was a question I'd been asking myself since leaving Gerald's office. "Honestly, I'm not sure yet, but I think we need to figure this out together. You, me, the other homeowners, and probably a team of lawyers." Patricia stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the polished floor. "I need to call an emergency board meeting. This is... She couldn't seem to finish the sentence. The emergency meeting was scheduled for the following evening. I arrived to find the clubhouse parking lot overflowing with cars. Inside, every seat was filled, and people lined the walls. The air crackled with anxiety and anger. Patricia stood at the podium, looking like she'd aged 10 years overnight. "Everyone, please, let's maintain order." She introduced me, and a hostile murmur rippled through the crowd. I stepped forward, my heart hammering. "I know you're all scared and angry. If I were in your position, I would be too. But I want you to know that I'm not here to destroy your lives. I inherited a situation that none of you has asked for." "Then sign over the land," someone shouted from the back. "Just give us the deeds and walk away," another voice added. I held up my hands. "It's not that simple. This is 1,500 acres. The value is in the millions. I can't just give away my inheritance because a development company committed fraud." A woman in the front row stood up, tears streaming down her face. "We have 3 kids. We put everything we had into our house. Where are we supposed to go?" The question hung in the air like smoke. I saw similar expressions throughout the room: fear, desperation, anger. These weren't villains. They were people who'd been lied to, just like Uncle Marcus had been wronged. An older man, in a golf shirt, stood up. "What if we buy the land from you? We could pool our resources, form a cooperative. At fair market value, that would be tens of millions of dollars." Patricia said quietly. Most of us couldn't afford it. The room erupted into arguments, people shouting over each other, some demanding I leave, others proposing impossible solutions. I stood there, letting the chaos wash over me, and thought about Uncle Marcus spending years trying to fight this alone. Finally, I raised my voice. "Listen, I have a proposal." The room gradually quieted. "I need time to think about this properly. You need time to consult lawyers and understand your options. What if we agree to a 6-month pause? No evictions, no legal action from either side. 6 months to find a solution that doesn't destroy everyone's lives." Patricia studied me carefully. "And if we can't find a solution, then we let the courts decide." I said, "But at least we'll have tried." A man near the window spoke up. "How do we know you won't just sell to a developer the moment we let our guard down?" "You have my word," I said, "and we can put it in writing. A formal agreement that gives everyone time to breathe." The discussions continued for another 2 hours. Eventually, with Patricia's reluctant support, the HOA board voted to accept my proposal. It wasn't a solution, but it was a start. As people filed out, many still glaring at me with undisguised hostility, Patricia approached. She looked exhausted. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for the 6 months. Most people in your position would have just sent lawyers. Most people in your position would have verified the land ownership before building. I replied, not unkindly. She laughed, a bitter sound. You're right. We trusted the wrong people. We all did. She paused. Your uncle, Marcus, he tried to warn us early on. Came to a board meeting about 10 years ago. Told us we needed to investigate our deeds. We thought he was just a crazy old man trying to stir up trouble. He wasn't crazy. No, Patricia agreed. He wasn't. We were just too invested to listen. Too afraid of what we might find out. I looked around the empty clubhouse, at the crystal chandelier and marble floors built on a foundation of lies. 6 months, I said. Let's not waste them. Patricia nodded. 6 months. As I drove out to the stone arch that night, I thought about Uncle Marcus and the burden he carried alone, about the families inside those McMansions, sitting on a legal time bomb they didn't even know was ticking, about the impossible situation we all now shared. 6 months to find a solution. 6 months to prove that sometimes, when everything seems lost, people can still choose to do the right thing, even when nobody's sure what that is. The countdown had begun.